Pilots picketing at Pearson. If you're planning to fly sometime soon, a scene like this might be the last thing you want to see. What those workers want and what passengers should be preparing for. Good evening. Those aviators all with Air Canada, both sides insisting no strike is on the radar.
Travelers hoping to take off, the union looking to land a deal. CTV's Mike Walker is live at Pearson with tonight's top story. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan, negotiations are continuing between Air Canada and its pilots. Hundreds of those pilots took part in a demonstration today at Terminal 1, highlighting some of the issues, which includes calls for better wages. More than 600 pilots standing shoulder to shoulder, holding an information picket at Pearson Airport, demanding a better deal as a nearly decade-long contract with Air Canada expires.
When you're in a collective agreement for 10 years, it becomes stale.
In May, the Airline Pilots Association invoked a clause ending the contract a year early for more than 5,000 Air Canada pilots. Bargaining began in June immediately after WestJet pilots ratified a new contract and is ongoing. Job security, working conditions, and wages are among the top issues.
The gap between wages and working conditions at Air Canada and pilots who do the same work elsewhere in the continent, specifically in the United States, is just growing and growing. It's unacceptable.
The industry continues to face a labor shortage. Last month, Air Canada cut routes out of Calgary. The union argues it's losing pilots to the U.S., where wages are much higher. Delta, United, and American Airlines recently securing new deals with wages increasing by as much as 40%.
Pilots in the United States are paid sometimes 50, 100, upwards of 200% more.
We do feel that if we're treated and valued appropriately, it's going to become an attractive profession again for young people.
For its part, Air Canada says it remains engaged in productive discussions with ALPA. This is a normal part of the bargaining process. Our contract provisions remain in effect, and we continue to operate our airline as usual. We are committed to reaching a fair, negotiated settlement with our pilot group. The union won't say how much of an increase it's asking for. Air Canada pilots have received a wage increase of 2% each year since 2014.
In that 10-year period, a lot of things have happened to competitive wages. Your skills are transportable across boundaries. You have an opportunity to get some significant increases in take-home pay, as well as lower cost of living in most cases in the U.S.
Industry experts say any job action would be months away and likely short-lived with government intervention.
Pilots are in a pretty good position. You cannot run the airline without pilots.
At this point, there is no strike on the horizon as both sides remain committed to negotiating. Now, this information picket did not have any impact on flights today. The union says it's hoping to avoid job action with a series of negotiations planned for the next month. Reporting live on Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Another group hoping to take flight, the Toronto Blue Jays. Oh, so close to punching their ticket to the playoffs in a season that's seen its fair share of highs and lows. Local sports fans know it's never easy. The roof is open at the ballpark tonight. The team's fate hanging in the air.
Talk about coming down to the wire, the final series of the year. CTV's Janice Golding is live outside the Dome with more. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, fans started gathering here at around 2 o'clock today, more than 5 hours before the game actually starts, hoping to see the Jays best the Tampa Bay Rays and get one step closer to winning a playoff spot.
Fans started lining up hours before tonight's game.
We generally line up for all of the fan appreciation things and the giveaways and the bobbleheads and the jerseys.
Because we want to get the sweaters.
Fans hoping for some free swag and to take in the atmosphere.
Now ball to short, right at Bichette, and that's the ball game.
After their decisive 6-0 win over the New York Yankees Thursday, the Jays could secure a playoff spot tonight if they win, provided the Mariners lose against the Rangers tonight.
First and foremost, you got to try to beat Tampa tonight and let everything else kind of happen the way it's supposed to happen. And if it's tonight, that's great. If it's tomorrow, it's great. If it's Sunday, it's great. You know, you just one day at a time, and you try to beat Tampa tonight.
Fans may be excited, but not everyone's counting on a win tonight.
The odds of making playoffs are pretty good, but you never know. Because if Toronto loses 2 in a row, then they're done, right?
Of course there's nerves. There's always a chance we can lose.
Although some are more confident than others.
We're confident. We bought playoff tickets, so hopefully they do win tonight.
Today's the day. Then we're going to make a big run and go right to the World Series.
I'm really excited too. I have total confidence in us making it to the wild card. They're going to win, of course. Of course? Of course. Yep.
There are 3 games left in the regular season.
So a lot of excitement and a lot riding on tonight's game, which will start just after 7 o'clock. Reporting live, Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
All right, thank you, Janice. Straight ahead, the break in a case that's been unsolved for nearly 30 years. An arrest, yes, an arrest in the murder of rapper Tupac Shakur. The man now in custody and the role authorities claim he played in the killing.
There's big news on the weather front. A serious stretch of sunshine and warmth into the weekend and beyond. No rain to speak of and temperatures that feel more summer-like than fall right as we welcome the month of October. Jessica Smith is live on Queens Quay tonight. How's the evening air by the water, Jessica?
It is beautiful. I'm wearing shorts. People out here are going for jogs and tank tops. It's fantastic outside. It's really been a storybook kind of September. We had that little bit of a heat wave to kick off the month. We've got warm weather to end the month, and October is starting in a fantastic way. Temperature-wise through the evening, we hold on to a lot of that daytime heat that we built up, and it really becomes quite beautiful. Now, the good news is, as we get in towards our low, tonight it's going to be just above that seasonal mark, but high pressure keeping us nice and clear. The only real active weather in the province will be through northern Ontario. We're still kind of in the upper teens, low 20s for the most part. And as we look ahead to what we can expect as we head through the rest of our night, not bad. Through the islands right now, 19. Through Pearson, 19. A whole lot of sunshine out there. And tonight, dropping down to 14 degrees. Mind you, the seasonal average is around 8. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including temperatures climbing well into the upper 20s as we step into the weekend and next week. Michelle, Nathan?
All right, thank you, Jessica. Events are being hosted across the country ahead of the 3rd annual National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
2 full days of ceremonies and workshops. CTV's John Musselman is live at Nathan Phillips Square with more. John.
Well, Michelle, events for the first day are just starting to wrap up, but they'll continue tomorrow. We spoke to a lot of people today telling us about the importance of truth and reconciliation. Nathan Phillips Square has been transformed for the Indigenous Legacy Gathering, part of weekend-long events to mark the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
The truth was told about the residential schools by the survivors when they all went to a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and now it's time for reconciliation.
It includes all kinds of events: music, medicine workshops, guest speakers, and crafts for the children. These students were also learning about the importance of this day.
It's really fun to come here and see all the other cultures. I think Orange Shirt Day for me means for us to recognize what happened back then.
This day is really important to commemorate the lives of the children that were lost to the residential school system, as well as the many survivors that did survive from the really violent system of residential schools.
I just met a nursery school group all holding on a rope going down University Avenue, 4- and 5-year-olds, none of them Indigenous, all wearing an orange shirt. So when we start to explain it when you're 4, maybe we can appreciate it as we get older.
The square is filled with activities.
We got 2 full packed days from 7 a.m. straight up until 9 p.m. Starting with sunrise ceremony, going through with a bunch of amazing knowledge keepers, speakers, on-stage performances.
And to be able to stand here in front of you, each and every one of you today, as the Ontario Regional Chief with no education, my educators are my elders and they're my professors, and look how far they brought me.
Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow was on hand to help open the ceremonies.
I stand here in solidarity with the Indigenous communities and sharing your pain as we commemorate Orange Shirt Day and mark the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
Orange shirts were worn to create awareness of the impact of residential schools and promoting the truth that every child matters.
But we have to acknowledge that we did something wrong. We have Orange Shirt Day because we need to recognize that there was many Indigenous lives that have been taken by residential schools, and we need to recognize that it's not okay and that it should not happen again.
There will also be an area available for residential school survivors to receive counseling and support. Once again, the Indigenous Legacy Gathering will continue all day long here tomorrow at Nathan Phillips Square. Ceremonies will begin at sunrise. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. And in Ottawa, an important learning experience for a group of students invited to Rideau Hall today.
Hearing firsthand from residential school survivors at a special event hosted by the Governor General. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
It means never give up in Inuktitut. The Governor General taught it to a group of high school students to bring home the message that reconciliation is a way of life, a process youth need to continue.
Inclusive history does not mean that we erase what we know. It means adding to history, giving it context and expanding it to include all perspectives.
Since she was sworn in as the country's first Indigenous Governor General, Mary Simon has used her role to build understanding between First Nations and Canadians. To mark this year's National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, she invited Elder Solomon Wawati, a residential school survivor, to speak about his culture.
It's important for us to go back to the laws of nature by learning how to read what nature is telling us.
The high school students also heard from Rochelle Metawabin. Her grandparents were abused at St. Anne's Residential School. She spoke about intergenerational trauma.
Speaking the truth is, as we know, exhausting and tiring. It's aggravating and it fills us with so much anger.
For many of the students in the room, this was the first time they heard directly from residential school survivors.
It just really made me realize the severity of the situation, and I learned that it's always important to listen to people that have had firsthand experience with this.
Also in the room, Indigenous artist Merle McMaster, who created these panels of starlings hanging proudly in Rideau Hall. McMaster told her story as she worked with students on another art installation. This is a moment of interactive reconciliation, a reminder that healing can happen through art and result in joy.
It's really good to express yourself through art. It's just really easy. If you can't express yourself through maybe words.
After an hour, this installation was finished, but it's temporary, made of paper, a reminder that the work of truth and reconciliation isn't done. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Coming up, while we're enjoying beautiful weather, a state of emergency in New York City, battered by intense rainfall, the wicked storm system having its way with the tri-state area.
Toronto police have made an arrest in a deadly stabbing last weekend in North York. 23-year-old Joyous Magdarilia was found lying on a Yonge Street at Hendon Avenue just before 10 Sunday night. That's not far from Finch. He was rushed to hospital but died of his injuries. Investigators now say they've arrested a youth in connection with the case. They face a charge of second-degree murder.
A woman was rushed to hospital after she was hit by a car this morning in Scarborough. This happened at Kingston Road and Claremore Avenue, west of Midland, around 6:45 a.m. The victim's injuries were first described as life-threatening, but they were later deemed to be serious. The driver remained on scene, but there's no word yet if charges will be laid. The roadway was reopened a few hours after the crash.
Meanwhile, a 9-year-old boy is expected to survive after he was struck by a vehicle in the East End yesterday. Witnesses say they saw the boy lying in the center of the intersection at Coxwell and Gerrard yesterday at around 6:30. A red car with visible damage sat not far away. Its driver remained at the scene. This follows the death of a 9-year-old girl on Wednesday in Thornhill after she was hit by a delivery van not far from her home. Both incidents are still under investigation.
North of the city, police are looking for a suspect accused of sexually assaulting a child at a Markham Community Center. Investigators say they've been informed of an alleged incident Tuesday evening at the Markham Pan Am Center. 2 teens are accused of approaching a 7-year-old in the male change room. One is accused of touching the victim in a sexual manner before exiting.
It's one of hip-hop's most enduring mysteries. For 27 years, the world has wondered who was behind the murder of rapper Tupac Shakur.
Now authorities making an arrest in the cold case. CTV's Zoraida Allman is live in studio with this development. Zoraida.
Michelle and Nathan, Tupac Shakur was at the height of his career when he was targeted in a drive-by shooting on the Las Vegas Strip. And while it has been almost 3 decades since his murder, investigators say this was never a cold case. He is considered one of the most prolific and influential rappers of all time. His murder, one of the greatest unsolved cases in pop culture history, until today.
For 27 years, the family of Tupac Shakur has been waiting for justice. We are here today to announce the arrest of 60-year-old Dwayne Keith Davis, a.k.a. Keefy D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur.
On the Las Vegas Strip, September 7, 1996, Tupac was riding in a vehicle with Death Row Records founder Suge Knight when a white Cadillac pulled up and opened fire. Tupac died in hospital 6 days later.
We never had the necessary evidence to bring this case forward and present it for criminal charges. But it wasn't until 2018 that this case was reinvigorated as additional information came to light.
Dwayne Davis himself speaking to media outlets, putting himself at the scene of the crime.
To keep it for the code of the streets. It just came from the backseat for him.
Then in 2019, he wrote a memoir claiming he was in the front seat. It was his nephew in the back seat who pulled the trigger. His nephew died in 1998.
It's always easy to implicate someone who cannot defend themselves. His nephew was killed in a reported gangland or gang-style shooting in 1998. So therefore, there was no one to dispute his side of the story.
Fast forward to this past July, investigators searched Davis's Nevada home, where it's reported a number of items, including hard drives, photos, telephone records, are taken. A grand jury now indicting Dwayne Davis on charges of murder with the use of a deadly weapon. In Las Vegas, investigators said today they believe Davis orchestrated the plan to commit this crime, describing him as, quote, the shot caller for the group. The DA's office says even if Davis wasn't the one who actually pulled the trigger, he can still be charged with murder. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Zoraida. The United States has urged India to cooperate with the investigation into the death of a Canadian Sikh activist. The American Secretary of State met with his Indian counterpart in Washington yesterday. Today, Antony Blinken said he told his guests the U.S. is very concerned about the allegations and those responsible need to be held accountable. The Indian minister says he delivered a detailed summary of his concerns to Blinken and other officials. Earlier this month, Prime Minister Trudeau announced there is credible evidence the Indian government may have been involved in the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in June.
It looks like Canada's Defense Department's in line for a major cut to its annual budget. The federal Liberals are planning to slash almost $1 billion from the budget. There are no details yet, but the news comes weeks after the government agreed to make NATO's spending benchmark of 2% of GDP an enduring commitment. Canada spent an estimated 1.3% of its GDP on the military last year, well below the target.
Meanwhile, the commander of CFB Trenton has been dismissed. Colonel Leif Dahl is now permanently removed as commander. He was temporarily replaced after being charged last month with weapons offenses and obstructing police. Dahl was seen shooting at protected wildlife from a boat and allegedly threw 2 firearms into the water. Colonel Leighton James is the new commander.
In Pakistan, at least 57 people were killed in attacks at 2 mosques. Nearly 70 others were injured in the first suicide bombing outside a mosque in southwestern province. It happened as worshippers marked the birthday of the prophet known as Maulid an-Nabi. The second blast happened in another province. There were concerns of possible attacks because of the significance of the day. No group has claimed responsibility.
She is being remembered as a giant of the U.S. Senate. Dianne Feinstein has passed away at the age of 90.
She was a historic figure, trailblazer for women, and a great friend. Dianne made her mark on everything from national security to the environment, to gun safety, to protecting civil liberties. The country's going to miss her dearly.
I can't right now.
Feinstein became the longest-serving woman senator ever. She served there for 31 years, a powerful voice for gun control. The California Democrat spearheaded the first federal assault weapons ban and documented the CIA's torture of foreign terrorism suspects. She was also San Francisco's first female mayor in 1978.
In Washington, the clock is ticking louder tonight on a U.S. government shutdown.
We actually need a stopgap measure to allow the House to continue to finish its work, to make sure our military gets paid, to make sure our border agents get paid as we finish the job that we're supposed to do.
But that last-ditch plan by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was voted down today. Both sides are blaming each other for the current predicament. So unless some kind of spending bill is passed by tomorrow night, millions of federal employees will be out of work, and many others will be forced to work without pay. The Senate is working on its own plan to continue funding at current levels. It's headed for a vote this weekend.
A state of emergency has been declared in New York City after torrential downpours unleashed flash flooding today.
And I want to say to all New Yorkers, this is time for heightened alertness and extreme caution. If you are home, stay home. If you are at work or school, shelter in place for now.
The water swamped some streets, disrupted subway service, and inundated ground-level apartments. Almost 20 centimeters of rain fell in parts of America's most populous city. The governor warned of life-threatening floods and also declared a state of emergency for Long Island and the Hudson Valley. Some National Guard troops were deployed to assist in the response. The storm was expected to push out to sea late today.
The Prime Minister was in Toronto today to help celebrate a special time for Asian Canadians.
Mid-Autumn Festival is a time to share meals with families, to reflect on the year before, but also look forward with optimism and enjoy some tasty mooncakes with friends and family.
The Mid-Autumn Festival is held on the 15th day of the 8th lunar month, when the moon is at its brightest. It's marked with the exchanging of gifts and the lighting of lanterns.
Coming up, the return of masks in a growing number of healthcare settings, rising COVID-19 cases, and the fall virus season prompting a temporary shift back to the protective measure.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up, it's Feedback Friday. We had a lot of reaction to our story on a family who had their house destroyed during a home renovation, another family that's been told they must remove a backyard putting green, and why having travel medical insurance is so important. Feedback Friday is just ahead.
And as we say so long to the month of September, we are looking at a fantastic forecast. If you're heading out maybe to a fall fair this weekend, you'll probably need some sunscreen because it's going to be pretty warm. As you head out and about, make sure you take into account that we have lots of sunshine on the way and some great music as well. And don't forget, stay with us right here on CTV. We have another great lineup of shows.
Viewers had a lot to say about a family who paid almost $60,000 for home renovations and then their contractor disappeared.
We also received comments about a man who owes almost $170,000 to a Florida hospital and an identity theft scam. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Michelle, viewers also had lots to say about a family who've been told they must remove a backyard putting green because it's made with fake grass. Some people told us they have neighbors with entire backyards made of concrete and don't see a problem.
There you go.
Chado Trivanovic installed a putting green with synthetic grass in his backyard 4 years ago. A neighbor complained water runs from this yard to theirs, and the city has ordered at least 50% of the fake grass must be removed and replaced with soft landscaping.
So the drainage is better than grass.
Scott told us, "I've had artificial turf for 15 years, drains perfectly, no mud, and doesn't affect my allergies. The city needs common sense to realize its benefits." The Sood family say when they moved into their home, it was in good shape but dated, which is why they decided to upgrade the kitchen and bathroom. But they claim the renovators they hired demolished their home, left it in a state of disrepair, and took off with $58,000.
He did nothing, zero. He only demolished. He didn't do anything.
Zelani wrote, "We had a $30,000 renovation project. The company asked for $7,500 in advance and another $7,500 the day before they were to start. We said no, and they never came back." Cynthia Tyrell and her husband Steve McMillan went on a vacation to Florida in March of last year. Tyrell was being treated for cancer but felt well enough to travel. But she ended up in hospital and had to be flown back to Canada. Her travel insurance refused to pay, and they were sent a bill of almost $125,000 US.
Quite a bit of money, so I'm just not sure what to do.
Francis told us, "I had to go to a hospital in Florida for 4 days and had an operation. My travel insurance wouldn't cover it, and I owe them $189,000. Ann Galt got a strange phone call saying her social insurance number had been stolen and she needed to help authorities to protect her money. She followed their instructions, but they turned out to be scammers and she lost $50,000.
That money was my safety net, and now it's gone.
Gay wrote, "I was just caught in a phone scam. Someone called and said they were with my bank and I was the victim of identity theft. I fell for it and lost $70,000. And never hand out your social insurance number unless it's something you legally have to do, and realize no one from the government will call you to ask for it. If you're in any doubt, just hang up the phone. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
With fall in full swing, the city is bringing back its annual celebration of Toronto's ravine system. Tomorrow marks the return of Ravine Days. The event was launched in 2017 to build awareness around the often tree-filled land formations you can see all across the city. Through October 9th, residents can learn and explore through a mix of city, community, and self-led activities. There's also an interactive Ravine Days map to help you find destinations to check out. Toronto's ravines extend more than 300 kilometers, covering 11,000 hectares or 17% of our city's land area.
You know, we're saying fall's in full swing, but it kind of feels like the beginning of summer, doesn't it?
It's incredible. Jessica's by the water tonight. It's beautiful. I mean, normally you're thinking, okay, this time of year, should I book switching out into my winter tires? But I'm thinking, where can I go swimming, Jessica?
You know what I mean? I made an appointment for my winter tires today, but you know what? I probably won't need them for quite some time.
No.
We really are ending the month of September in such a beautiful way. A lot of folks out here along Queens Quay, along the waterfront, working on their boats, wearing tank tops, wearing t-shirts. It is really, really nice outside, and it's going to continue to stay quite beautiful as we head throughout the rest of the evening. Now, temperature-wise, we were just above seasonal as we made our way throughout the day today, but it gets nicer and nicer throughout the weekend. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. Now, we've seen this ridge of high pressure settle in, and it's really not going anywhere as we step into the rest of our weekend and really for the foreseeable future, at least the next 5 to 7 days. Now, temperature-wise, we built up a lot of warmth throughout the day today, and that's going to continue as we head through the overnight. We're looking at a low tonight of 14. The seasonal norm is 8. A little fog rolls in, but really right across southern Ontario, quite beautiful. Into the day tomorrow, you guessed it, just more sunshine on the way. 25 degrees our daytime high here in the downtown core. The norm this time of year is 17, so we aren't astronomically above the seasonal average, but we all really right across the board through southern Ontario benefit from this ridge that is really holding quite firm. Not a lot in the satellite radar picture. We have that system that was affecting New York and another one making its way through northern Ontario, but high pressure again creating a bit of a blocking pattern for us here in southern Ontario, and there's not a whole lot to write home about when it comes to any kind of active weather. Now, as we head through the rest of our evening, a beautiful night, a few light clouds out there, getting into our Saturday morning, much the same, and then it clears out. Again, the bulk of that active weather really is staying in towards northern Ontario, and then it tiptoes along those eastern shorelines of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. Getting into Sunday night, again, it's going to be quite beautiful, and as we get in towards Saturday, Sunday, Monday, sunshine, sunshine, and more sunshine. We begin the month of October well above seasonal. Again, we're supposed to be at about 17, and we're really nowhere near that. Our overnight lows closer to 7 or 8. Again, we're probably 7 or 8 degrees above the seasonal average as we head over the next 5 to 7 days. So if you have any outdoor plans this weekend, I know a lot of fall fairs are taking place. People are going apple picking, taking those pictures for Instagram. It's a fantastic forecast to do all of those fun activities or come down by the water. Now, getting into Monday, we are looking at lots of sunshine again. So sunscreen, although we are into the fall season, is a good idea for yourself and the kids heading off to work and school. Now, as we get in towards the rest of next week, we stay above seasonal until about Friday. We start to tiptoe back towards where we should be for the seasonal average. But honestly, as we settle into the first full week of October, it is going to be quite nice. Now, in the extended long range, looking into the second week of October, we start to rebound back towards a more seasonal mark. But honestly, we hold on to the sunshine for the next really 2 weeks, to be perfectly honest. There might be a little chance of rain in the extended long range, but I'm focused on this weekend. And Michelle, Nathan, it is going to be fantastic. I'll send things back inside to you guys.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you, Jess. If you're planning to take the subway this weekend, there's a major service closure you should know about. The TTC says Line 1 will be out of operation all day tomorrow and Sunday between St. Clair West and Shepherd West stations. Crews will be doing track work. Shuttle buses will be running instead. Regular service will resume by 6 Monday morning.
And looking west of the city, some drivers planning to take the Burlington Skyway overnight will have to find an alternate route. The Niagara-bound lanes will be entirely closed for critical repairs from 10 p.m. tonight through to 10 a.m. tomorrow. The Ministry of Transportation says advanced signing will be visible on the highway. Also tonight, Aerosmith fans will have to be patient. The rock legends push pause on their farewell tour as frontman Steven Tyler's vocal injury proves worse than first thought.
I was afraid I was going to die in jail.
Trapped in a foreign country.
They put a bag over your head.
A romance scam victim speaks out.
I didn't do it. I'm not a drug dealer.
W5 exposes a shocking twist.
It's unlike anything I've ever investigated before.
As a daughter fights.
They got something to hide.
For her mother's freedom.
I can't believe this. This can't be happening.
Watch W5 at a new day and time. Next Friday at 10 on CTV.
If you've been to a healthcare facility lately, maybe you've noticed it. The return of masking in BC is becoming mandatory next week.
Many now wondering whether Ontario will follow suit. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has more.
BC's medical officer of health, Dr. Bonnie Henry, says the mandatory masking rules apply to hospitals, long-term care settings, and clinics.
To everybody in the healthcare setting, in patient care areas. So in areas where we know there are people who are most at risk of having severe illness or complications from all of the viruses that we tend to see circulating this time of year.
And while the rules in BC call for full-time masking by staff, volunteers, contractors, and visitors in these areas, others will be less strict. For example, in long-term care, residents are in a place that is their home. So visitors will be required to mask up, but residents may choose to go without, depending on their doctor's advice.
Patients, for example, who are coming into an emergency room, they can't always put a mask on. It may be trauma, it may be the reason that they're coming in. But absolutely, if somebody's coming into the emergency department, sitting in the waiting area, we will expect most people to be wearing masks.
Here in Ontario, many hospitals still have that in patient-facing settings, but I think they're reintroducing it in BC because it had stopped. And right now we're already starting to see a surge in respiratory viruses.
Dr. Lisa Solomon, who works at several Toronto hospitals, says patient-facing areas have maintained masking requirements through the pandemic, but did relax the policy in some areas, like the cafeteria or research areas. Solomon adds now is the right time to bring back masking in Ontario for all areas where patients are found. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
And our online team is tracking the latest on hospitals' masking policies in Ontario as the province holds off on wider mandates. Multi-platform writer Hannah Alberga has that story on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
Singer rapper Lizzo is asking a court to dismiss a lawsuit filed against her by 3 former dancers last month. The suit alleges incidents of sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment. Lizzo previously called the allegations false and outrageous. Now, a legal filing from her team argues the dancers sustained no injuries, loss, or damages. It also outlines a number of other claims defenses. A lawyer for the dancers said the responses have nothing to do with the case.
After their Toronto show was canceled earlier this month, Aerosmith is pushing back even more tour dates. The band was set to bring its farewell tour to Toronto September 12th, but frontman Steven Tyler said he had injured his vocal cords a few days earlier. That show was rescheduled for February, but now all of Aerosmith's performances for the rest of the year are moving to 2024. The band released a statement saying, in part, unfortunately, Steven's vocal injury is more serious than initially thought. His doctor has confirmed that, in addition to the damage to his vocal cords, he fractured his larynx, which requires ongoing care. He is receiving the best medical treatment available to ensure his recovery is swift, but given the nature of a fracture, he is being told patience is essential.
After teasing it a few weeks ago, boy band NSYNC is out with their first single in nearly 20 years. The song is called Better Place. It was released today as part of the Trolls Band Together soundtrack. NSYNC have been appearing together ahead of the release, including at the MTV Music Awards and in social media promos.
Hear the sweet sound, the sweet sound of children.
And the Rolling Stones have released another track from their upcoming album featuring Lady Gaga and Stevie Wonder. The song is called Sweet Sounds of Heaven. It's set to feature on the Stones' first original studio album in nearly 20 years, Hackney Diamonds. It's out on October 20th.
Some big news for film aficionados. Social site Letterboxd has been bought by a Canadian firm. If you don't know Letterboxd, it's a website that lets film fans share, rank, and discuss movies they've seen or would like to see. It recently topped 10 million registered accounts after seeing a surge in use during the pandemic. Canadian holding company Tiny has now bought majority control of Letterboxd. The deal puts the value of the site at more than $50 million US.
2004 fantasy comedy 13 Going on 30 is becoming the latest movie to get the musical treatment.
I hate being 13. I just want to be grown up.
And she woke up 17 years later.
The film featured Jennifer Garner as the grown-up version of a 13-year-old who wanted to skip the awkward teenage phase of her life. 13 Going on 30 is being reimagined as a musical by the writers of its initial screenplay. A workshop of the show opens next month in England.
Fans of the Sound of Music movie who think they know every song off by heart could soon be in for a surprise. A new version of the Rodgers and Hammerstein soundtrack is on the way, featuring more than 40 previously unreleased pieces of music. It's expected to even include the original vocals from late Canadian actor Christopher Plummer, which were dubbed over in the 1965 film. The new version of the Sound of Music soundtrack will be out in December.
Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boy. Who's better? Nobody.
You know, you cannot run the airline without pilots.
Updating our top stories, hundreds of Air Canada pilots picketed at Pearson Airport today, putting pressure on the airline as contract talks continue. Job security, working conditions, and wages are among the top issues. Air Canada says it's still engaged in productive discussions with the union. Both sides say a strike is not on the horizon.
True reconciliation is actually where you come together and you understand both sides.
Nathan Phillips Square is hosting the Indigenous Legacy Gathering today and tomorrow. The event celebrates Indigenous cultures while honoring residential school survivors and their communities. It's part of a weekend of events across the country, marking the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
You never know. If the Toronto lose 2 in a row, then they're done, right?
Of course there's nerves. It's always a chance we can lose.
Toronto Blue Jay fans are keeping a close eye on tonight's game as the team is on the cusp of making the playoffs. After beating the New York Yankees 6-0 last night, the Jays could punch their ticket to the playoffs if they beat Tampa tonight and the Seattle Mariners lose to the Texas Rangers.
In business, the country's economy stalled again in July. The impact of the Bank of Canada's rate hikes is weighing on growth, and the economy is also facing other shocks, including strikes. With more, here's Jacqueline Hansen from BNN Bloomberg.
Canada's economy was flat in July as the country struggled to grow against headwinds of elevated interest rates, wildfires, and strikes. StatsCan highlighted the impact of the port strike in British Columbia. And while there was some bounce back in mining activity after the June wildfires, fire risk continued to limit RV and camping trips. The biggest drag on growth in the month was from manufacturing. It declined for the second month in a row. Scotiabank's head of capital markets economics, Derek Holt, says it's a sign of resilience that the economy didn't contract, despite everything that Mother Nature and striking workers have thrown at it. Meanwhile, with interest rates as high as they are, a growing number of small business owners in Canada are struggling to secure the financing they need to grow. According to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, a record 36% of business owners cited a shortage of working capital as one of their biggest limitations. The CFIB also says its Small Business Confidence Index has dropped. And Netflix mailed its final DVD today. For 25 years, it has brought movie magic to people's mailboxes in its signature red envelopes. And even after its streaming business took off, DVD rentals continued. People sought out special edition discs or hard-to-find movies that didn't make the cut on major streaming platforms. But DVD demand has dwindled. The rentals now make up just a tiny sliver of Netflix's business. The streaming giant's total revenue last year was more than $31 billion. Its DVD rentals brought in a little less than $146 million. Let's take a look at some of the closing market numbers for today. The Canadian dollar is trading lower about half a cent to 73.63 cents U.S. West Texas Intermediate oil fell almost $1 to a little under $91 U.S. a barrel. And Western Canadian Select fell about $1.70 to roughly $72.50 U.S. a barrel. As for stock markets, the TSX declined 49 points to end the day at 19,541.27. That is the latest in business. I'm Jacqueline Hansen of B&M Bloomberg.
The cost of gas in the GTA is expected to fluctuate over the next couple days. The price at the pumps rose just shy of $1.62 a litre overnight. The president of Canadians for Affordable Energy, Dan McTeague, says the price will then fall 4 cents tomorrow to $1.57.9 a litre. McTeague says markets are jittery over the looming U.S. government shutdown and a possible slowdown in demand from potential interest rate hikes.
It may be hard to believe September is almost over, but the start of the month will mean some welcome news for minimum wage workers in this province. Starting Sunday, Ontario's general minimum wage goes up from $15.50 an hour to $16.55. The minimum wage for students who meet certain conditions goes up over $1 to $15.60. And wage increases remain one of the key objectives for Unifor, as it sets an October 9th deadline for contract talks with General Motors Canada. The union represents more than 4,000 auto workers at 3 Ontario GM plants. Talks restarted this week at Unifor, saying it hopes to use its recent agreement with Ford as a template for both GM and Stellantis. The Ford deal included wage hikes and 2 new paid holidays.
The city is pushing ahead with one of its initiatives to improve access to affordable housing. Mayor Olivia Chow made the latest announcement under Toronto's multi-unit residential acquisition program. Indigenous housing nonprofit Wigwamen are adding 11 more permanently affordable rental units, something the mayor says is vital as Toronto's housing stock remains under extreme pressure.
We know that Toronto is losing affordable housing 14 times faster than we're building it. So the fastest way to create more affordable housing is to buy buildings in partnership with nonprofits, cooperatives, and land trusts. By helping purchasing new units, we can stop rent increase, rent evictions, demevictions, and keep units affordable forever by taking them off the private market.
The city's current target is to approve 47,500 new affordable rental homes. Since its 2021 launch, the nonprofit program has funded approximately 261 permanently affordable units.
Tonight, a major break in the long unsolved murder of a rap legend.
Fresh out of jail, California dreaming.
Decades after Tupac Shakur was fatally shot, the shocking arrest of a witness turned suspect. Later on CTV National News.
A reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available to download every weeknight And a special What's Up to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Hey Toronto, I'm Nicole Cervinas.
And I'm Teddy Wilson, and welcome to Things to Know TO.
Each week, we shine a spotlight on a wide variety of local businesses, services, events, and initiatives from across the GTA.
And if you or your company would like to be featured, you can contact our team by email at thingstoKnowTO@bellmedia.ca.
And don't forget, join us on Saturday mornings on CP24, CTV, and CTV2.
And hey, why not follow us on social at Things to Know TO.
There was strength in numbers for this group of stingrays in western Florida.
That's until a very scary and very hungry intruder showed up. They narrowly escaped the clutches of a shark. Check it out, a drone operator filming the predator near Anna Maria Island, south of Tampa, when he noticed hundreds of stingrays close to shore. It closed in on them and began its pursuit. The predator was fast, but the stingrays were faster. They managed to navigate the water, flapping their wings to propel themselves away from the danger. The shark eventually left after failing to catch any of its prey. By the way, stingrays and sharks are related, but apparently they're not good friends.
From the Gulf of Mexico to Lake Ontario, not Florida weather, but we're getting close.
It feels pretty nice outside. You know, we're seeing the sunset now, but it is still really beautiful this evening. So if you're heading out for a walk or you're going out this evening for dinner, you don't need much. As we head throughout the weekend, more and more sunshine on the way, and October begins well above seasonal. Get out and enjoy it. I'll send things back inside to you guys.
We will. Hope you do too, Jess. Thank you. And that's it for us. But be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.